In June 1863, Robert E. Lee moves his Army of Northern Virginia to invade the North. He pushes across the Potomac River and uses the mountains to shield his army's movements. His army of 70,000 men hopes to draw the Union Army out and destroy them to force the Union to sign a peace treaty with the Confederacy. As this is happening, the Army of the Potomac moves north with its 80,000 men to stop Lee's advance. Both armies collide in a little town called Gettysburg. This battle will decide the fate of the war.
Lee's plan is to occupy those hills on the other side so that when our people get here, Lee will have the high ground. There'll be the devil the high ground. We have 2,500 men. They'll be coming in force. There'll be 20,000 coming down that road. Our scouts have told me that these men believe us to be local militia. Now let's use that to our advantage. If we can hold this ridge for a couple of hours, we can keep them away long enough for Reynolds and the infantry to get here. We can block the road till the main body arrives. We can deprive the enemy of the high ground.
But only God knows their exact whereabouts. Luckily, that will be of little concern to us, as our dear General Lee and his staff will worry about the location of the Yankee hosts. Have to see to our own task. Our division has been dispatched towards Gettysburg, a village a few miles to the east of our current position. Many roads meet at Gettysburg, making it vital to capture in order for troop movements and supply lines to be established while we operate in hostile territory. Of course, there is some rumors about plentiful stores of food and lots of shoes, which I'm sure will please many of you. Pickets have reported that they have spotted a small body of troops, most likely some federal cavalry under Buford and some local militia, eager for a beating, which has positioned itself in between us and the town itself. It should not be more than one brigade, so I expect you to make quick work of them. Brush them and drive these cavaliers off the field, like the nuisance that they are to our mighty army of Northern Virginia. Onward, onto Gettysburg!
Noch ein bisschen nach rechts. Gentlemen,
Shoot this fucking dude.
looks like we've arrived just in time, men. Forward then, Iron Brigade! Forward, for God's sake! Drive those traitors off our land! Huzzah!
Greetings to you fine gentlemen! The sun's still high, it is hot, and it will only get hotter today. We're all tired after yesterday's hard fighting, but I can happily tell you of our efforts that they were not in vain, and that the enemy has been pushed out of the town completely. But we did not break them, and we did not manage to chase them off the field with their tails between their legs. The entire army of the Potomac now sits spread out in a long fishhook-like formation stretching all the way from Culp's Hill by the Rock Creek, round the Cemetery Ridge, and down south across the fields and hills. Supposedly, their line ends here, just a few hundred yards ahead. As such, we've been given the task of dislodging their flank, so gentlemen, let us play our part in collapsing the rotten structure that is the corrupted Yankee army. I won't lie to you, it won't be easy. Many of you, maybe even myself, won't see the light of the next day. We've been sent here to the far end of the line because they need Longstreet's finest to break up the Union flank and roll over the damnable politician's core ahead of us. Sickles and his dandies will be swept from the field by our assault in no time, I am sure of it. Make no mistake, terrain is harsh. Boulders, rocks, thickets, trees, everywhere. It will hinder our movement, and we will be pretty much under constant firing. However, I know of you, where one man falls, you will close ranks and quicken your step, no matter the hardship and no matter the cost. You will push the Blue Devils back. Don't fight for me, fight for your families and friends at home that do not have to endure the horror of war, as you have. As such, gentlemen, it is time now for us to show that actions matter more than words. You will break them, you will drive them before you, and you will obtain triumphant victory, gentlemen. On this bloody day, I tell you, forward, take these rocks, and drive those Blue Devils out of their den of evil.
because we are the end of the line. Unit Army stops here.
Right face, please.
We are the flank.
Excellent.
Pile the rocks up high, stay down, slope ground, it's good ground.
Virginians! Virginians! General Lee has seen it. In the center they will break, he said. And it will be you, Virginians, who will break them. Our artillery is conducting a preparatory bombardment at this very moment with all its might. 150 cannon had been brought forward. I dare to say this surely must be the greatest cannonade in the history of this continent. With Yankees' cannon silenced and their infantry in disarray, with troops of Generals Pettigrew and Trimble forming up on our left. 15,000 in total, and with God's aid we will emerge from the woods and march straight into the weakened Yankee center, at the low stone wall towards the little copse of trees, and they will break. Gentlemen, General Longstreet told me, and I tell you, this attack will decide the outcome of this battle, and perhaps the fate of this war, and thus the future of our nation. Today, you will put an end to northern oppression. Today, you shall punish the invaders of our homeland. Today, you will give your wives and children safety and freedom, and today you will give your countries and your states the rights they deserve. To your posts then, commanders. Form your battalions. Onwards, Virginians!
"Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth, on this continent, a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. Brave men, living and dead, struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they have fought here, have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause, for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain.
Amen.
That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Huzzah!